Hey everyone, welcome back to YFNA and Ask an Atheist. Alongside me is co-host of The Perspective and my friend Martin Robert. Martin, how you doing?
Hey Ethan, I am great. I'm thrilled to be here. It's been a minute.
It's been more than a minute. It's been
2 minutes.
years. Yeah. Yes, 2 minutes. It's been a long time. Do you ever miss hosting The Perspective?
Yes.
And you can be honest. You can say no.
No, I really do. I did that more than anything else on camera. I think that and nonprofits probably were like I had the same number of episodes logged. I think maybe one more for nonprofits. Now that I think about it, but
oh darn! I thought we.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was on Truth Wanted at once with the ACA, and then other than that, Helen's show the other day. But most of the time, I was in the background, so which I enjoy.
Remind me the name of the show. Fireside.
Freethinker Fireside.
That's what it is.
I can't remember if it's Free Thinkers plural or Free Thinker singular. I think it's Freethinker Fireside.
Free Thinker. I think you're right there. I'll be on her show at the end of the month. Which, for those who don't know, Helen has been a big proponent for RFR. I've worked with her for plenty of times.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
very sweet person too. Like,
she is. She's such a delight
to talk to.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little nervous. I haven't appeared on anyone else's show in a very long time because, for those who don't know, I've just gotten back into this in the past month now. Yeah, it's been about a month that I've been starting shows again. So it feels good. It's definitely something good for my mental health.
I feel like I understand, it's always important to take care of yourself before you take care of your job, your hobby, anything else. If those things aren't taking care of you, then they need to change. But I do think that it's something that you're very talented at, and something that, if one had a calling, I would say show business is yours.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we have to do what we have to do to pay our bills and hustle. And I know you've worked in other industries before, but I definitely think that this is something that, you seem so natural at it. It's like, first episode, 100th episode, whatever, Ethan's hosting.
Well, thanks, man. That means a lot because I thoroughly enjoy doing this, and I forgot how good it makes me feel talking to other people on camera and digging into their stories.
Honestly, man, if I can just kind of chime in on that for a sec, I think we all kind of lost a little something, even though I found my way into this space through COVID, through being furloughed from work and moving to, across the country. Not having community. I sought one out online. But at the same time, I feel like in the aftermath, there's been a lot of rebuilding, right. And a lot of restructuring and a lot of change, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster on my end. Believe me, like when you said 2 years, I was like, oh, yeah, I guess it was.
It has been. It's been a long time, and time flies by. Like my relationship, it was a month, and then all of a sudden it's been almost 4 years. And then I was thinking about it earlier today, and I was like, holy crap, we have not been on camera together or even spoken outside of chat in about 2 years, which is crazy because we were together every single week.
Yeah, for a while there. Yeah.
We're getting old, man.
I know, right? Like, seriously. What do you have? You have a couple years on me, I think.
I'm old. I never reveal my age on camera.
Uh-huh.
All right. So tell me about this. What was your upbringing like? And how did you become an atheist?
So how I became an atheist, it's funny, some people have a moment in church when it all clicks and it all makes sense and they feel God. I'm sure I had those before. They're kind of hard to, re-experience once you're past that feeling, or once you're no longer in a state of belief, if you will. But it was when I was giving a sermon. It wasn't like a big formal church service. It was a contemporary praise service. I was in the praise band too. I was the drummer. But I was giving.
You're a drummer?
Yeah. I studied percussion for my first year at university. At like
Oh, cool.
after community college. Yeah. And I didn't end up pursuing it, but I was going to study music or go for music education and be a music teacher originally. Life changes though, goals change, perspectives change. The perspective. Go down here.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a troll question.
No, please.
But it's coming in the comments. So Sherrard Temple says, do you really believe something came from nothing? Followed up by physics tells us the opposite. What do you say to that?
When somebody asks me, do you really believe, if the words didn't come out of my mouth, probably not. So clearly he's encountered somebody who has either told him that atheists believe that, or maybe he's an atheist just asking kind of a perspective question. I'm not sure. But as far as something coming from nothing, I'm assuming we're talking about the Big Bang. Go ask.
That would be my guess.
Go ask a physicist. I can tell that as far as what started the universe, I will even hear a deist argument as long as it doesn't contradict anything to do with any scientific field that at this point we consider to be, fully researched, validated, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I believe that myself, but if God started the universe like that and then stepped away and never was seen again, sure. Fuck it. If that's what you need, take it. I don't think that's a good reason to believe in God. And I think that if you look for any other evidence other than where did this all start, I don't think there's anything tangible, fungible, or otherwise provable. Okay. But yeah, that's how I would answer that is, start with asking an actual physicist if you're wondering the actual way that it happened, because we weren't there, but we can measure, a lot of different things in the universe, and neutrons and electrons and, photons and all sorts of wonderful things, and carbon. And anyway, yeah.
That's why I miss you on the perspective. You are a knowledgeable man, and I appreciate that.
Thanks. I guess, I've kind of tongue-in-cheek considered myself a Renaissance man for a little while, because I've worked in so many different industries in the sub-industries within the service industry. But at the same time, so I've ran my own little bartending business. That was very much part-time, but I did private parties, planned events, planned the alcohol side of events, I should say.
So when you say you planned events or worked bartending like privately, what do you mean by that?
So if somebody was throwing a party and they know they wanted private service, meaning they don't want guests just, having an open bar and serving themselves. They want to have a little bit of either a classy touch, or they want to make sure people don't overserve themselves and, keep it a little bit tamer, than the wildest person at the party may want it. And so, and these are higher end. I mean, I won't say like super ritzy, but, the regular clients that I had is this gay couple. They booked me for like 4 years in a row. They're good friends of mine now. But I also did kind of one-off events, just word of mouth, like, oh, hey, Sherry told me. And then, oh, hey, Susan told me. And, oh, hey, Crystal told me that she used you for her party last Super Bowl, last Labor Day, last Memorial Day, whatever the hell. And so, basically, I would plan out a menu if there was a theme, or if they had certain, desires, like, oh, hey, my mom's side of the family all loves rum and cokes, for weddings or whatever the heck. And so got to make sure there's a couple different styles of rum on the menu, a spiced rum, a white rum. Like I bartended my buddy's wedding, and so I did a bride and groom's drink. They each had a signature cocktail. Actually, I have a funny story on that, if you'll allow it.
Please, you are the guest. You can talk or share as much as you want.
Oh, don't tell me that. Let me get a sip of water. No, this is one of my favorite bartending stories. And I said Renaissance. That's, one of the several subsections. The other one being like retail, of course. I managed a restaurant, worked in back of house, front of house, delivery, service, barista, everything you could imagine that's front-facing retail, pretty much.
When we first met, you were a server, right? Or bartender, one of the two?
No, I was on furlough from, I was previously a service manager. So I managed front of house service for a restaurant. So that's like
Oh,
full
okay.
server team, the bartenders, training those departments, purchasing for those departments, like, scheduling, hiring, firing, etc. And that was like the first big boy job I ever really had, where I had an
Okay.
actual salary. And I shit you not, I had it for 306. Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Swear as much as you
We're
want. I
past
don't
2
give a fuck.
minutes. Yeah, we're past 2 minutes in, so it's not going to ding you on the algorithm, at least not the version of it that I know. Anyway, so exactly 365 days from my first day back from training, they furloughed every single service manager in the company because they closed all the front of houses of the restaurant for COVID. So
Wow.
yeah, I got promoted in January of 2019. I was back from training mid-March of 2019, and then mid-March of 2020, it all shut down. So
I remember that.
yeah, I was put on indefinite furlough. I also was trying to get out of New Mexico at the time, and I had friends in Florida at the time. Those friends, as intelligent as they are, have chosen to leave Florida, as I am also doing in the near future with my husband, because we are terrified. It's kind of scary down here, folks.
Is it really that scary?
I can't say anybody specifically targeted me or him, but just the wanton disregard for life as just, it's escalated. You can see it on the highways, you can, in traffic, you can see it in retail establishments, grocery stores, interpersonal interactions. You can see it. It's boiling harder than it's boiled before. And it's been there for a while, just that palpable tension, I guess,
You're stuck under Governor DeSantis, right?
Yeah. Oh,
I hear he's a maniac.
Yeah, our last day in Florida, and don't let me forget to get back to the bartending story.
Sure.
Our last day in Florida is the first day of his Second Amendment summer, which is no taxes on all guns and ammo for the summer.
No taxes?
No taxes. A Second Amendment summer. And so to me, that means that he wants his people armed. Why he wants his people armed, I'm not going to stick around to find out. So
that's kind of scary.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not one of those people who's like, the Civil War is going to start in 300 and, no, I don't think it's going to come to the, it's not the 1800s.
Agree. It's not going to happen.
Not to say that we're more civilized. It's just we have different ways of resolving disputes now that are violent. They just aren't that kind of violence. They're a different kind of violence. They're economic violence. And so we're about to see a whole lot of that is what I think. And so Mathew and I are moving back to my hometown. In fact, into the house that I grew up in, which my parents are not residing in right now. They live in the second house that I grew up in. My mom's business is in the near future moving out of the first house, and we're moving in. So thankfully,
how did that happen? How do you end up back in your childhood home?
So we just wanted to get out of Florida, and we don't really have any money right now.
Okay, that's fair.
Easy answer. And mom and dad are, they want us to help out with projects around both houses and then cover utilities that we use, and that's about it. So.
Oh, that's fair. That'll save some money.
Thank God. I'm just kidding. No, I will say, as a function of living in Florida, I have adopted a lot of Christian language, including, oh, bless your heart, or have a blessed day or whatever.
You're not saying bless your heart, are you?
I use it to disarm people, though.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know what I mean? Like, if I need somebody to, well, not even disarm, if I need somebody to like me, like if I'm going to be interacting with them regularly and they got a big old cross around their neck, I'm just going to be like, have a blessed day. It's not for me, it's for them. And it's so they treat me better because of their bias. It's using their bias against them, I guess, if you will.
That's fair.
Atheist and Christian clothing. Though I would never directly pretend to be of faith, like if somebody point blank asked me.
That's what I was just going to ask you next.
Yeah, no,
I wouldn't directly ask you what you would say.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. But when I'm in a service role, I need to interact with the general public, and the general public down here is Christian, and I can't, it's easier to pretend to be like them right now until I can get out, just for my own mental health. And when I say pretend to be like them, that's all I mean, is just little phrases like that. You know, other than that, I don't do anything that would be considered Christian.
So how difficult is that on you, pretending?
Well, again, it's not really pretending, because like I said, if somebody asked me, I would be honest. You know, in fact, somebody did ask me once, like a couple of years ago when I was working in car sales, and you know, I told them, I was like, oh yeah, I grew up going to church, and they're like, oh, and now? And I was like, I don't go to church anymore. And they're like, oh, why is that? And I was like, well, you know, I just left it there. I was like, how about we talk about the fucking car deal? Like, are you here to question my faith? But at the same time, I've had customers when I was selling cars who wanted to pray with me before they signed the deal. What am I going to do?
No? Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a woman grab my...
Seriously?
When I say a woman grab my hand, I mean like a sweet old grandma, right? You know, her son moved out of the state like decades ago. Her husband died 5 years ago. Her car is fucked. You know, the shop's hitting her with a $5,000 bill for a new engine. She wanders into the showroom and bumps into me. You know, I make her a cup of coffee. We sit down and talk numbers. She's shitting her pants, and then I calm her down, and I'm like, okay, well, you don't need this Altima. You need like this Altima. Let's find you something here where you can actually afford it. It's not going to take up, you know, your whole social fucking security check. She had her husband's social security too, but still, that's not much money.
No, it's not.
But like, yeah, we got her into like it was a sub $300 payment, which is unheard of these days in cars without a big down payment. But anyway, at the very end of the test drive, she's like, Martin, it's perfect. And keep in mind, I had been running this whole thing. This lady is like just petrified. You know what I mean? Like with this $5,000 car bill stuck in her head. And she grabs my hand and she's like, I want to pray with you before we do this. I'm like, okay. You know, what am I going to say? No? Like, blow up my whole fucking car deal I just spent an hour and a half on. So it's one of those things where, you know, we live in a Christian world, and I'm not going to inconvenience myself just to be loud about my beliefs, because I don't like it when people do that with theirs.
Right.
You know? So I just kind of take that perspective on it these days, which is not the previous perspective I had. I mean, when I was working for the ACA and all of that, yeah, I'd say it was synonymous, maybe a little bit more tactful now than in the past. But hey, that's what working in sales for 3 years will do to you.
Right. No, I somewhat understand where you're coming from, because when Jess, my girlfriend, was in the hospital, it was a rough time, and our neighbors were very kind. They started mowing our grass, picking our weeds, like doing everything. Yeah, they
like that.
Yeah,
I want to be neighbors like that someday.
they're great neighbors. They're fantastic. And then one day, like, I pulled in as they were working, and I'm like, oh, you don't got to do this. And they're like, no, we want to help you guys. And I just kind of broke down in front of them and started crying. Because I was heartbroken seeing the condition Jess was in. And then they asked me, they're like, can we pray with you? And without hesitation, I said, absolutely. You know, I'll take anything I can get. Any person that was willing to pray with me at that point, I accepted. And I want to be clear. I obviously don't believe in God, but I know they were trying to do a good thing and did something that made them feel better. So you know what? It was fine with me. But at the same token, I was willing to accept any positive reinforcement.
I was just going to say, yeah, because you can soak up that positive energy. And I don't mean like parasitically. I mean, they're giving it to you, accept it. You know, even if you don't agree with the logic behind it, it's love. Don't turn it away.
Right.
You know, that's something that I've learned these days too. You're making me tear up a little bit, bud. Not something I want to talk. No, you're okay. Not something I want to talk about too much on camera, but it's always tough watching a loved one go through medical stuff. Everybody's good now. So, well, as good can be in Trump's America, but
it was a hard time on me. I found myself on the floor in a ball, crying multiple times, just completely destroyed. like, oh my God, is because she was in a state of psychosis. So it was like, oh my God, am I ever going to see my girlfriend again?
Right.
And it was just absolutely mortifying. It tears you to pieces. And every night, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, I'd roll over to put my arm around her, and she wouldn't be there. And it was like, oh my God. And then I'd get that memory, okay, she's in the hospital. And every single night I would tear up just waiting for her to come home.
Oh, so it was kind of a longer stay. I don't mean to pry, but
No, she was in the hospital for 5 weeks.
Oh my God. Oh,
And
that's
she
so
was
rough.
in a state of psychosis for about 3 weeks, where she had no clue what was going on. And the worst part would be, I would go there in the morning. I'd wake up. This was my habit. I'd wake up every day before work. I'd grab my laptop. I'd drive to the hospital. I'd get set up my laptop. I'd start working and just sit there with her all day until the end of the night. And every night before I left, even though she was not all there was part of her that was still there.
Right.
And she'd start crying and begging me not to leave.
Oh.
And the nurses would be like, no, visiting hours are over. And she would just look me in the eyes and be like, please don't leave me, bro. I almost said my real name. Please don't leave me, Ethan.
It's funny. I'm so glad you said that, because you know what's really funny, dude, is you've told me before. I can't remember. I think I remember what it is. And obviously I'm not going to start guessing on camera, but I don't quite remember what it is. So I guess you're just Ethan Micheal forever to me.
That's fine. That's my YouTube name.
Even though I absolutely count you as a friend.
Thank you. I consider you a friend as well. And you know what? Now more than ever, because of what's happening at my company, I need to keep my real name separate from my YouTube name. And I don't want to go into details, but it is pertinent to my job that
I would keep that on the hush hush too. Just
I shouldn't even say anything at all. That's probably dumb on my part.
It's all good. I was gonna type it to you in chat, and I was like, we don't have many people watching right now. How many people are watching right now?
12.
Oh, cool. Hi, people.
So yeah, I don't get a lot of live viewers. I get a lot of post viewers.
Right. Yeah.
So that which is regardless, any viewer.
And I want to look back on the comments in like a few weeks and see what people say.
Exactly.
I always like doing that on my perspective episodes. Not out of vanity, just out of curiosity. I'm like, I want to hear what people say about what I say. It's interesting.
Yeah, same.
To hear
I
what
always
other
like to
people
know.
think.
So this is so off topic, but I used to watch a lot of your posts when you were being a car salesman. How did you get so good at car sales? Because I constantly saw you like, I just sold a car. I just sold another car. I sold another car.
That was a combination of talent and timing, which all great pursuits typically are. Talent, not in being a great car salesman right off the bat, but talent in being able to build a quick relationship. In that I can bump into you in the grocery store and we'll be friends in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? If that's my goal. Like, unless you're resistant to it, if you just go with the, oh, excuse me. Oh, I like that, necklace. Like, and now we're talking,
Right.
And that's pretty much what it is, just with cars. And so that's kind of how I viewed it. Is I've always done this. This is just me talking about cars for profit instead of me talking about cars because I love cars, and I do love cars. And so timing, we were in the height of a shortage, and I was at a high volume dealer. That dealer, I will not comment too much on, but let's just say that they pulled as many strings as they could to get as many cars as they could. And I didn't realize how shady it was until I did. And then I left because I was like, oh, got it. Don't want to be a part of this.
Why was it shady? What were they doing?
I'll tell you off camera.
Okay, fair enough.
I can tell you that a lot of the cars were not in great condition, and that's not what I'm talking about at all. It's shadier, way shadier than that. So, yeah. I guess I'll say this: when you plug a USB cord into a phone, you call that a connection, There are a lot of
Yes.
connections there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can leave it at that. So I know we kind of glossed over finishing up the atheism talk, but what were you raised as?
Oh, so I was raised Episcopalian for, let's see, 9 years, 10 years, 10 or 11 years, something like that. Because my sister was born when I was 9, and she was confirmed or baptized, at the Episcopalian church, as was I. And then we switched to the Methodist church when there were kind of some things at the Episcopalian church that my parents didn't really care for. Really, it was surrounding one person and very, very unethical and very unchristian thing that they did with one of my friend's parents who was married to a different person, and so which destroyed that family, absolutely destroyed it. So my buddy's dad not buddy anymore, but anyway, he ran away with my Sunday school teacher, and she continued to be my Sunday school teacher. And this is a tiny ass community, and he's one of like 3 dentists. So, you know what I mean? It's like a third of the community knew this guy, and then this entire Episcopalian church knew this woman, and the church just kept her in her position, paid role, and it's like she's literally committing adultery. Like, how can you do that? And so my parents didn't like that. I mean, she was also a nasty person, and he was a nasty person, and he emotionally abused his kid, which is why his kid went on to not really take on any friends from school into later in life. And I don't know where he is now, but I know that he was
bad.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's why we stopped going to that church. Then we went to the Methodist church because my buddy Ben went there, and then a few of my mom's friends went there, and we'd never done Methodism before, but their version of Methodism is all about giving back to the community, and I was in Boy Scouts, and that made sense to me. So I just kind of, went with it. It didn't, it wasn't that big of a deal to me at the time because I got to go to church with one of my friends. You know what I mean? Ben is one of my best friends. I've known him we've known each other since we were 5. We've been friends since like 3rd or 4th grade, and we're still friends to this day. We were just playing Civilization 7 a couple days ago. So,
is that a video game?
Yeah, Sid Meier's Civ 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we played Civ 5 back in like the 2010 to 2015 era, then Civ 6, and now Civ 7. You can bring Woodhouse on camera now. I just didn't want him meowing like right when.
Oh, Woodhouse! Let's see Woodhouse.
And Dusty. Dusty will make an appearance too. Is it okay if Mathew says hi real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, Mathew.
This is my buddy Ethan.
Hello. How's it going?
And look at this chonker. Look at this gigantic man.
Aww.
He's so big.
Cute little kitty.
So big.
Oh, he likes his belly scratched?
Oh, he loves his belly scratched.
That's a rare quality for a cat.
It's because he trusts us. I'll take him. Yeah, because I used to have him on my lap all the time for shows.
I remember.
And he's quiet. He's quiet when he's on my lap. He was running around and yelling earlier, though, because I just woken up from my nap, and he was napping with me, and then he was mad that we woke up, and here we are.
I remember. Do you remember the episode where we had Woodhouse meet Band-Aid?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Band-Aid.
Yeah, I know. He popped up in my memories today.
Oh, sweet boy.
Anytime he pops up in my memories, it just breaks my heart all over again.
What a great name.
It is a great name, isn't it?
Scratch.
He was my heart. He was my whole heart.
Yeah, that's okay. You will find more cat loves in the future. Who knows when? Might be a week, might be 3 years.
Well, it's funny. Speaking of,
if you haven't already, yeah.
So while I had Band-Aid, I wanted to get Band-Aid a friend, even though he hated other cats. Mm-hmm. So me and my buddy, we were living together. So we adopted a cat, and we called her Ivy. And Ivy was determined to get Band-Aid to like her. Like, she was nonstop forcing him to play. That's and great. He would get pissed. He would scratch. He would howl. He would go nuts. And she was just like, no, fuck this asshole. You're going to be my friend. And she wouldn't stop. That's and then so before funny. I knew it, I'd catch them cuddling together. And it was like, oh my God, Band-Aid's made a friend. and then we lost Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And here's the sad part. Obviously losing Band-Aid is the sad part,
Right.
but I wanted Ivy to have a friend. So my aunt fosters kittens. So I walked into her room of all the kittens, and I did the same thing I did with Ivy. The first one that came running up to me was what we call her Starlight. She was the first one that came running up to me, and I was like, I got to bring her home. And since the moment I brought her home, Ivy has hated me.
Oh, really?
She doesn't like me anymore. I can't
Oh,
pet her. I can't go near her.
how
She
long has
won't
it
cuddle
been?
me. She absolutely hates me now.
How long has it been since you brought Starlight home?
A year and a half.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. She
Wow.
literally now
You may
my
need to like recondition her to you, which is
how though? How do I get her to like me again?
it has to happen with food with feeding intervals, probably forced contact. You know,
It just
girl cats are weird, man.
yeah, they really are. They're
Girls are weird,
moody
man.
and temperamental.
Girls are icky. No.
Okay, so that brings me to our next topic.
Wait, the bartending story. When can I squeeze that in?
Oh, let's squeeze that in right now.
Okay. So, oh, actually, sorry, just to put a cap on the Methodism, that was the denomination that I was with the praise service that I mentioned at the beginning, where I was giving the sermon, and I was like, oh shit, I don't believe what I'm saying right now. And then it all just kind of from there over the next couple of years. That was 2010 to 2013, I'll say, was the deconstruction period, with the big event being in 2011. But anyway, so the bartending story. So I'm bartending my buddy Justin and his now wife Keely's wedding. Very good friends of mine. And her drink was a coconut margarita with a coconut crusted rim on the glass, you know, and we were outside, so we used plastic cups. And what I did was I just kind of, dipped the glass in some simple syrup, and then I had a tray, like a plate of coconut flakes, and I went around, and picked up some coconut flakes, poured the drink in it. Well, to get the coconut flavor in the drink, I use coconut cream. And for bartenders, instead of like a can of coconut cream, which is kind of unwieldy, you have to get like a teaspoon, and they make it in a squeeze bottle. So here I am with this white squeeze bottle. I'd say, about the size of like a small ketchup bottle, but it's pure white. Has a picture of a coconut on the front, and then just some black writing, and that's it. And then on the back, just more black writing. And the aunt of the bride orders the drink, and she sees me making it, and I grab the white bottle, I squeeze some in, and she stop! Did you just put sunscreen in my drink? No. It was a sunny day. We're in New Mexico. Like, I guess that makes sense, but why is the sunscreen sitting with my bar ingredient? And just the way that she shouted, stop! You put sunscreen in my drink. Oh, I did not. And so we all had a good chuckle over it. She did too, of course, when she realized what it was. She was like, oh. She felt kind of dumb. I was like, don't worry about it. Hey, to be honest, it looks like a fucking sunscreen bottle. I'm not going to lie. So it's got a coconut on the front and some black text about like science ingredients and shit. Anyway, next topic.
All right. Before we get to the next topic, I have a question coming in from Evan. Yo.
Yeah, sure.
Can you please tell me how you cannot believe in a creator? Genuinely interested in what needs to happen in the mind to do this.
Oh, that's funny. I have a buddy named Evan, actually, who's a Christian. Very good friend of mine. I don't think that's him, though. He doesn't. I don't think he knows that I'm here right now. If he does, hi, Evan. Other than that, hi, new Evan. So, how do I not believe in a creator? Well, to do that, we're going to have to define creator. And I don't mean to do that immediately getting pedantic thing that atheists do. But if you just say creator, you could mean anything. And so if we take it in the anything sense, we know where cells come from. So as far as a creator, where did the cells come from? Well, they came from its, parent. And where did those come from? if we're looking at where did we come from as humans, evolution explains that. Hand over fist. Like, it just, there's no holes in how evolution happens. As far as, maybe not for the human race, I can't say that we have every single, like, here's year 3 million and 1, 3 million and 2 bone structures, 3 million and 3, but we have samples going back. I million is probably off. I'm not the one to ask about age.
Well, we're not evolutionary biologists.
Yeah, exactly. Tens of thousands of years is probably more correct. But anyway, point being, if you're asking where we came from, evolution explains that. As far as how species adapt and how those adaptations become part of what the species is, and then how we differentiate between those species, we just kind of draw arbitrary lines where it's like, okay, well, 500 years ago it had X, Y, Z, and now it has A, B, C, and X. It still has X. Like, they're related, but it also has A, B, C. And so if we're going back to the Big Bang creator thing, again, I don't need an explanation there. I don't need to, in order to find my purpose of what Martin Robert does when he walks out that door every day, I don't need to know where the universe came from.
I feel the same.
If there are other things tied to that question, why is my first question. Why are they tied to that question? How is it related? Because if it's not related, other than God did it, and we can't demonstrate God, then they're not related. Right. Because the other thing on the other side of the God did it, not the Big Bang side, but the everything else in creation that's claimed, whether you go back to the firmament claims or you look at modern claims of, oh, God exists in us, through us, around us, whatever. It's like, okay, so it's so wispy and smoky, it's not even there. Maybe it's not even there,
Right. Okay, so back to the topic I wanted to talk about. So I don't know if you know this, but 3 weeks ago, I finally found the courage to come out on camera as bi. But doing...
I did not know that. Congratulations.
Thanks. It was terrifying.
I remember when we first talked about it years ago.
Yeah. It's taken me forever.
Sorry, I hope that's okay to say. I'm like,
no, it's fine. I trusted you, so I told you.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it on camera.
I was like, oh, he actually does trust me. Like, not like you wouldn't.
I did trust you. So, but it's clearly immensely harder to come out as gay. So before we talk about you coming out, at what point in your life did you come to the realization that you were not straight?
Actually, before that, I'm going to do something that I really like doing. And that's to address the question that you asked, or what you said before you asked the question. You said coming out as gay is harder. Were you comparing that to coming out as bi?
Yes. I think it's way harder for you than it is me.
I wouldn't discredit your own experience that way. Because you had your own struggles to get there. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you.
So if you're talking about the front facing, like tertiary, relating to society sense, yeah, you and Jess can walk down the street holding hands and nobody would know that you're bi just by looking at you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So like in that sense, yes, I understand what you're saying 100%. I just wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't discredit your own struggles to be here today. So,
well, thank you.
Other than that,
right back at you.
So I'm sorry. What was the question?
Well,
I'm sorry, buddy. I did that
at
thing.
What point did you start to realize you were gay?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there's several answers to that question. When did I first? Yeah, no. It's okay, because I don't think that being gay, bi, it's not all just one thing. It's how we talk about how we feel. And how we talk about how we feel is based on how we feel. And how do we feel? Well, we only have so many words to express that. So,
right.
When I first started noticing that I was interested in guys, like 10, 11, preteen for sure. And I was a late bloomer, as it were, physically for puberty. But and emotionally probably too. I didn't come out until I was 20. And the thing is, you know, I always want to clarify, just because I don't want anybody to think anything poor about, you know, or bad about my family or anything. It wasn't because I didn't think my family would just gonna accept me. It was because I wasn't ready to deal with it yet.
Okay.
You know, I say that I wasn't ready to deal with them yet. I wasn't ready to deal with it yet, regardless of what they were gonna do. It was my choice, you know.
Okay.
That's also something that I've come to know in my early 30s, is understanding what your choices are and what your choices aren't, I guess, and what other people's choices are. So anyway, but yeah, so when I was in like 10, 11, I started like being like, oh, wow, the guy in the swimsuit is way more attractive than the lady in the swimsuit. Why is that? I'm gonna think about that later, you know. Put a pin in that for later. You know, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old brain isn't gonna think about that too hard. Just like look at the abs and look away and, you know, steal little glances, and, you know, because I was really into guys' abs. Well, still am. But especially before coming out, when it's all pent up inside, you know.
Right.
And so when I first, you know, I'll just say when I first watched gay porn, probably 14, 15, I want to say. Maybe 13.
Oh, wow. It wasn't until that age that you first watched porn?
Yeah. I mean,
I've got a story for you, but I'm going to save it until you're done.
I watched straight porn first. Like, you know, I'd say, let me think. No, it was definitely 7th grade. Yeah, because it was 7th grade French. I remember one of my classmates, or project buddies rather, showed me how to turn off safe search. I mean, not like I didn't know, but he showed me what you could do with it. And he didn't like pull up porn for me, but I was just like, oh, I'm going to play around with that later. I'm going to learn some things. What does it look like under there? And so as far as like when I started to like understand that I was attracted to men sexually, like high school, you know, 15, 16, 17. 17 was when I graduated. I turned 18 shortly after I graduated. And so the 2 years after high school, I was living at home. I came out to a few friends at Starbucks that I worked with who were very queer friendly. Of course, it's a fucking coffee house in, you know, college town Ithaca, New York. Can't get any more queer friendly than that. And so yeah, they were incredibly supportive of me. And once I moved to New Mexico, I felt comfortable coming out to my family and everybody else in my life all at once. So I did that. First I told my parents, I told everybody else. Yes. Oh yeah, very much so. I always say it took my dad about 2 weeks for it to register, and then he moved forward and continued loving me like he always has.
That's amazing.
It's not like it took him 2 weeks to think about whether or not he loved me. It just didn't click, you know. But then once it clicked, he's like, oh, okay, you know. And they both, oh my gosh, they adore Mathew. They love. I mean, I love him too, of course. You know, he's.
I would hope so.
But, you know, when they this is one of my. Oops, sorry, I hit my microphone. This is one of my favorite pictures of us.
Oh,
This is
oh
the
my
day
God,
we
that's
actually
adorable.
Rings.
That is really adorable.
Yeah, and so I had my buddy. I told Mathew we were going to our favorite restaurant. I want to tell our story at some point.
I was just going to ask you for your story.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, perfect. Segue.
Yeah. Can you also include how you guys met?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, great.
So we first met in December 3rd of 2024. No, 2023. Sorry. Hold up. It's 2025 now. Jesus. And this is also the longest relationship of my life. I mean, obviously I married him, you know, it's going to continue to be that, but it still is at the slightly over 1 year mark, the longest relationship of my life. So when I'm thinking back of like, oh yeah, it was 2 calendar years ago. So anyway, we met when, we went to this, disco, dance party thing at this club in downtown Fort Lauderdale. It was very G-rated, actually. It was a lot of fun. It was just a bunch of people getting together for a funky disco night. And so anyway, but the way I met that group of people was through this gamer group, you know, gamer with a Y, gay men who game. And so I was in this Discord
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, you never heard that before?
No,
Oh,
I've never heard that before.
So, Ethan, you would absolutely qualify as a gamer. I hope you know that. I mean, there may be people who say that you wouldn't, but whatever. If you can look into the camera and say, I'm attracted to men, even if you're not exclusively attracted to men, you can play games with us. But anyway, so I found this gamer group through Grindr mid 2023. And it seemed like cool people. They are cool people, actually. I still hang out with quite a few of them, but the group got huge. And so we stopped doing like hangouts with like a core, like couple dozen of us, you know, and people kind of splintered off, which happens. But Mathew joined it a few months later in October, I think, or maybe early November. And he said early on that he always noticed my messages in chat and he really liked the way that I said things. Is that accurate? He's staring at me right now. He found the other cat. Quick cat segue.
Wait, who's this cat?
Grown up now. This is Dusty. She was Dusty. She was a kitten when we first met. I got her in August of 21. Yeah.
Dusty is so cute.
She's adorable. And it's funny because she is Matthew's familiar. She has, even though I got her before I met him, long before I met him, she has adopted him. She's like, nope, this is my people, actually. She still loves me. You know, we're still cool. But nope, she is his cat and he is her people.
Sleeps on my head.
That's adorable.
She literally sleeps on he's laying on the pillow like this, and she's just up here also laying on the pillow.
Oh,
it's adorable.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
She comes in, yells at me, and then jumps up on my lap.
Yep.
And then
she yells at you.
She comes in and goes prow, and then jumps up and falls asleep.
Yeah, no, she just jumps up right here on his lap as he's playing games or working on a project or whatever he's doing on the computer. Yep, falls asleep. It's so cute.
That is adorable.
So he said that he always noticed, or noticed my messages in chat, and he was like, oh, he's, interesting. I like how he phrased that because I do have a specific way of speaking, I guess I'll say.
You are an intelligent, well-spoken man.
Oh, thank you. And so is he. And that's why we kind of just like attracted to each other very quickly. But first, my dumbass had to date this other guy who is a good friend of both of ours now. And really has been the whole time. He had to be distant for a little bit when Mathew and I first got together, which I understand because I kind of broke up with him a little bit, even though we weren't officially together. But anyway, so I dated this guy who's a little younger than Mathew. It's more for fun than for like a chance at long-lasting romance. But we were both enjoying it at the time. And then he kind of got like hot cold, and I lost interest. And then I asked out Mathew because he had been asking me out week after week for the entire month of December. And I'd been politely saying no, thank you, because I was seeing this other person. And I wasn't like, it wasn't the type of relationship or whatever that I wanted to like stack, because I thought maybe
it wasn't open.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could have been, but with Mathew, I wanted to like really see if there's anything there, but I wanted to make sure the door was closed with the other guy first. So, and so it was kind of, December was like this, you know what I mean? As far as me dating other guy. And then we dated for 9 days, and then he pretty much proposed to me. And
oh wow,
yeah, this is like our story, which I guess I'm okay sharing. It's not a secret. I mean, we told the girl at the Lego store that day. I think girl because she was literally.
You like Legos too?
Oh, dude,
show me some Legos.
This is just in arm's reach.
Oh, dude, I love Legos. That is so cool. I want one of those. That is awesome.
So it has a little dial here to show the phase of the moon. And then this has a little dial to show what month it is. And there's that little dial.
I want one of those.
They're on sale at Target now because they're discontinuing it soon. It's $62.
I am going to go to Target tomorrow.
Yeah, get one. They are so fucking cool, dude. And Mathew said it was a blast to build. Like, certain builds are just fun, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
Well, shit, man. I mean, if you really want to see my Legos, I feel like I need to bring you over to my camera on my phone and walk over to the Lego shelf. But I don't know if you want to do that right now.
How would we even pull that off?
I would just pull up StreamYard on my phone and join it there.
I'll leave it up to you.
Okay.
Your decision.
Let me share. I'll finish sharing the story now, and then we'll do that.
Okay.
Anyway, so 2 days after, so he did that. That was like at midnight, day 9, then we were together. And then I said yes, of course, because I was like, I felt exactly what he felt. I was like, wow, we're speaking the same language. We understand each other's nuances. Like, we understand each other's crazy. And we have continued to understand each other's crazy. He understands me better than anybody I've ever met before, and still continues to talk to me and how well we get along, I guess. Because I can be oil and water with some people sometimes, you know. There are some people that either evoke a very strong reaction out of me, or I evoke a very strong reaction out of them, is how I like to put it. One or the other. Strong reactions, though. Keeping it positive. Anyway, so the day after I said yes, I called into work, and so did he. And we went to this restaurant, the one that 10 months later, we did a formal proposal where I got down on one knee and handed him a ring, you know, because that's more for the parents and the families than anybody. But we also wanted to have photos, you know, it's cute.
Right.
So the next day we went on our own little mini honeymoon in South Florida. We went to a Japanese garden. We went to this really nice restaurant for brunch. We went to, oh God, what else did we do? We went to the Lego store. There isn't a Lego store up here. It's down in Boca, which is like 45 minutes south of us. So that's, you know, it wasn't like a trip, but it was fun.
Right.
And it was just a magical day together. And then we went to work the next day. And then at the end of the next day, his roommate assaulted him, and he moved in with me very suddenly. And so not like I wasn't open to it at the time, but we were planning on me running out my lease and us getting an apartment together over the next couple of months. And we were going to, you know, like let things settle into place, basically. Nope. We had to do it all at once because his roommate was an asshole and relapsed into using a substance, and was upset that anyway, long story.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to share it. That's just
no longer in our lives. We had to go back with the police to collect its things. It was a lot. And through all of that, we got sick for about 2 weeks. He lost his job. I did not work, and thankfully still retained my job because my employer is also a good friend of mine. At the time, he was. That was the manager that I worked for at multiple dealerships who like taught me everything that I know about car sales. Okay. Good buddy, also mentor, you know. But yeah, so anyway, so I retained my job. I went back to work at the very end of January, made enough money just to pay rent, basically. Mom helped me out a little bit. And then in February, we both got the flu. So, and we didn't have the flu before. We had something else before. We still don't know what. And so I was out of work for 8 days, and then he got bronchitis. And
that's rough.
Steroid. And yeah, he already has asthma. There was a day, actually, it was crazy, after he came off of the steroid, right? He already has back muscle spasms from a previous injury, like a weightlifting injury. He's still in treatment for. But anyway, when he came off the steroids, the muscle spasms were so bad, they triggered an asthma attack that wouldn't stop, and I had to bring him to the hospital. He couldn't breathe. It was crazy. That was like mid-February. And then he got a job in March, and he worked at a dealership that I used to work at, where, you know, is it fair as far as dealerships go in South Florida, is a very safe spot. And then the economy took a downturn, and even the safe spots became not fair, I guess I'll say. It's not like they weren't safe. And when I say safe, I mean not having to deal with people doing, you know, cocaine off the manager's desk. I wouldn't consider that a safe work environment if there's a Glock, you know, 10 feet away. Like, and so anyway, so he worked there until about August, and they started, October. They started screwing over his paycheck, you know, taking things out of his name that were in his name that phone appointments that he had set, et cetera, et cetera. And at my store, things got crazy, and somebody really did bring a gun into work in August, and not to hurt anybody, just to show it off. But this person is also incredibly unstable and worked in a 6-person room with me. It was like a boiler room. There's 6 desks, and wow. She continuously butted heads with me for months preceding this. We worked in different departments. We didn't have to interact, except for if one of us needed to leave the room when there was nobody else but the other person to answer the phone. And guess what she did? She was out of the room every fucking, 2 seconds. She was at her desk for probably about 4 out of 8 hours. And so anyway, one day I just heard a Glock, a handgun slide. And I was like, do you have a gun? She's like, well, I just brought it to show DJ. And I was like, okay. I just stood up and left. I was like, okay, goodbye. My boss told me, she's like, where'd you go? I was like, Shay has a gun. And she's like, what? I'm like, Shay has a gun. I'm not dealing with this. She's talked about a gun for months, and then she finally brought it into work. Well, what do you think the next step is? And so I left car sales for a little bit after that, because that was just a bit too much to deal with. And I got into Medicare sales.
So that was like the final straw for you?
Not permanently. I will go back. I just needed a break, and I here's the thing. I've interviewed, I've had offers. I just haven't found the right spot yet at another dealer. And that's been since, like I said, mid-August of last year. I was telling my and Mathew's story. And then anyway, so then he stopped working at the end of October. We had sort of a medical thing that we're still kind of dealing with. And then we're also working on moving soon. So what I've been doing lately, I sold Medicare through the holidays, Medicare Advantage plans, I should say, okay. Which you want to talk about fraud and waste in government. You want to talk about fucking Doge, fucking Elon Musk. Medicare Advantage. It's not Medicaid that's the fucking problem. Like, Medicaid works wonderfully. Takes care of people who can't afford to pay for their own care. Medicare Advantage is basically taking $10 from the government and turning it into about $5 of healthcare coverage. It's a reduction machine, because guess where the profit has to go? It has to go to the company that issues the Medicare Advantage policy, which is United, right. Aetna, Humana, etc. I always like to do that. Aetna, Cigna, etc. The big ones. Because they're all kind of fucking Latin sounding. But anyway, so I sold that for a little bit, and then I kind of got a better look at the business model that I was working for. And there's a few, I can't really say too much on camera. Let's just say that it wasn't aligned with my business interests or ethics. Okay. And it's not like they were doing anything illegal. They were not doing anything illegal at all. Everything they did was above board, recorded, documented. But just because you can get a senior to say yes to you over the phone doesn't mean you're helping them. I guess I'll say that.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And switching somebody's healthcare policy, even if they can see the same doctors for absolutely no reason, issues a commission to the agent. If a commission's issued to the agent, where does that come from? It comes from the healthcare company. Where does that come from? It comes from their profits. Who supplies their profits? The federal government. So what do they need to pay those commissions? More profits. So if you switch somebody's plan like 5 times a year, which you can't do from the same brokerage, but you could do from multiple brokerages, not even working together, just working off of the same call list, independent operators working off of the same call list. And so anyway, so our job was to get people to switch their healthcare plan by dangling, small incentives out there, like over-the-counter medicine spending, or like, money towards your co-payments, where the plan pays your first $500 in co-payments, even though there are co-payments, so if you only go to like the doctor 3 times, you don't pay anything, even though you have co-payments on paper. If you exhaust the 500, then you pay your co-payments beyond that. That kind of plan is good for somebody who's healthy. But like I said, a lot of these people didn't need to switch their plans at all. We didn't help them in any way. All we did was incur a line item expense on the federal government. We didn't hurt them either. That's the thing, is like nobody's health was benefited by the action. And if it's health insurance, shouldn't that be the first concern?
You would think so. So I have one last. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say real quick. So I left that industry. So Mathew and I could spend a little bit more time together too, because of medical things. And so what we do now is he works from home a little bit on either various projects for his father's business, my mother's business, his brother's business, just like admin stuff, or he will ride along with me when I deliver Instacart and Shipped, which is what I did prior to being in car sales. So the circle is now complete, and now I'm leaving Florida. But it was actually we transitioned to this for a few reasons. I mean, we're on ACA insurance either way, we weren't getting insurance from my job. He didn't have a job because the dealership, like I said, just wasn't working. Anyway, now I don't, we don't have a fixed schedule, so we can facilitate our move. We can get ready for stuff. We can, deal with anything we need to deal with and work in the time surrounding that. So it's actually gonna be pretty nice, So anyway.
So my ex-wife lives in Florida, and she tells me nothing but horror stories about how bad DeSantis is. What are your thoughts?
So I've lived here for 4 years. I've visited here since 2012, and I can tell you that it's hit a fever pitch. No, it hasn't hit a fever pitch. It hit a fever pitch in 2020. There was I have it encapsulated in one video of a woman screaming at a Publix. Publix is a grocery store chain down in Florida, in case you're not aware.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
A Publix pharmacist over the vaccine, and then the Publix manager, who's this, fucking 300-pound gigantic man, kind of ushering her away, not physically touching her, but just like, move it along, ma'am. Go towards the door. And she's just screaming, the vaccine. And it's just been that energy. I've just seen that energy ever since. Like, I had a lady the other day at the fucking grocery store. I was, I'm shopping Instacart, right? I have a cart full of groceries. I put it in line at one line. There's another line down there that immediately moves along and nobody else in line. So I go over and, I look real quick, make sure the conveyor belt's not like packed full. And I put my phone there. I go back, I get my cart. And then this woman who is standing like 20 feet away with her cart, not in line at all, she comes walking up. And I was like, oh, ma'am, I put my phone there to show that I was going to be in line here. And she's like, no, I watched you. You walked over and put your phone here and you walked back over. And, this is my spot. And I was like, you know what, ma'am? I hope you have a blessed day, because clearly this is more important to you than it is to me. Take care. And I just walked away. I was like, and she would handle it. She was expecting a fight. She was ready for a fight. She wanted to fight somebody for a grocery line when we're buying groceries.
Oh my God.
It's like, what the fuck? And, she's this sunburnt asshole. I mean, I don't want to speculate too much on who this person is, but, she's in there wearing sunglasses in the middle of the day. And, like I said, skin burnt to hell, fucking living. This is on the island, mind you. You have to be very wealthy to live in this area. And I'm just like, this woman's fucking not baked. This woman's drunk in the middle of the day, just at Publix, being an asshole to people. Like, wow. What? And here I am hustling with no worker protections for a 1099 job that is actually a career in a state that has no interest in protecting me, and every interest in cutting her taxes, and it's like, I don't want to participate. I don't want to play this game anymore.
That was a good way to handle it.
Yeah, no, I was just like, and her husband was with her too. And he just like they just didn't know what happened. They were like, what? and then she had such a smug look. She looked over at me and smirked as she was walking out, because she left before me, of course, because she got in line before me. I went back to my other spot, and I just I made aggressive non-eye contact. I just like, just kind of looking down. I'm like, that's another thing that I'll like to do when I'm out. Oh, I almost got into it with a guy today at Target. Oh, if I had stayed another minute, I may have done something that I would have went on to regret. As far as
tell me more about that.
So I really like the Target employees. I like all of the employees, actually, because when I'm shopping Shipped and Instacart, we have to get along. They're stocking the shelves. They're in charge of the product that I'm vending. If we don't get along, then we're just going to be fighting all day, And so I always get to know their names. They get to know me. And, all the skilled shoppers do that, because why not set up those relationships? These are just people, they're people just like us. And so anyway, so my homegirl Marla, she's my favorite person at this Target. And this Target's the one that's like a mile from our house, right? And so I shop there the most for my orders. You know, I always try to pick up like early morning or late night orders there, so I can just start right at home, maybe bounce back, get a meal, and then go back out again. And so this man was in line and at self checkout, and he scans something, and he just starts screaming at her. He's just like, "Oh, you need to talk to the manager. The pricing on the shelf is wrong," and blah 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 blah. And she just walks away. She's like, this is a 60-year-old woman with grandchildren, mind you, a 65-year-old woman. She's like, I don't have fucking patience for this. So she goes over and gets somebody else to talk to him, and he's screaming, and she comes back over. The other person walks away, and he's still just there, like, you know what? He's still scanning his shit, mind you. He's still checking himself out while like shouting at her over his shoulder. And I just say,
Oh
sir,
my God,
sir. And he's like, what? And I was like, don't be mean to my friend Marla. And he didn't know what to say to that. He was just completely like, so shocked when you stand up to them because they're so used to having their way. They're so used to it, and it's not an age thing. It's not just boomers, but
no, it's not.
It's a very high, it's a disproportionately represented demographic in my county. And especially for the industry that I work in, because who orders the most groceries? Fucking seniors, They don't want to go to the grocery store if they can avoid it. They're on a fucking, juicy ass pension or something. And so anyway, the reason why I say that it would have come to blows other than that, I just continued bagging my groceries, made on my merry way. Well, apparently another guy came up to him and was like, hey buddy, like move it along. I'm trying to check out here. He called him the F slur. And I'm glad I wasn't. I'm glad I wasn't there.
Wow.
He's glad I wasn't there. And not to be like, that one word is the worst word ever, blah, blah, blah. I use that word jokingly on occasion in private company, if I know that company intimately, like with Mathew, for example, or like a few of our gay friends, not other of our gay friends, and certainly not in the fucking grocery store. I'll say fuck in the grocery store. I won't say that word in the grocery store. Because it's not a place for using a slur, even if you're using it ironically, which I think that, like I said, if as long as you're, only you can know your own intentions, but as long as you're in the in group and you're making like an approved joke, and the other person on the receiving end, other than that, no, you don't use that word, especially not if you're a straight man. And anyway, so yeah, when I went back to shop more, she told me, she's like, you know what happened after you left, Martin? I was like, no, what? And she told me, I was like, she's like, oh, I know. I'm honestly glad you weren't here either, because I don't want you to be trespassed for assaulting a customer. No, I mean, honestly, I don't think I would have struck the man. I definitely would have screamed at him as loud as I possibly can. And I can scream very loud, like incredibly loud. And so anyway, I got all fired up over that earlier today.
I can't blame you. This similar to you, this kind of drives my girlfriend nuts. I tend to get involved in situations because I don't like people being treated poorly. And this is just one small example of many examples. I was at a gas station and I'm in line. There's two people in front of me. And the cashier's like, okay, I can help. Who's next? And the guy in the front of the line is doing nothing. She goes, sir, I can help you next. And the guy in the front of the line is still just standing there. So the guy behind him goes up and goes to the register. And this guy that was in front starts flipping out, calling him all these names. And the guy's like, the guy that was behind him was like, hey, I'm sorry, you weren't stepping up, man. I didn't mean to disrespect you. And he's, no, you got a fucking problem, don't you? The guy's like, no, man, I'm sorry. Like, you were just standing there. And for a few minutes, this goes on. And finally, I got pissed. Right. And I'm like, quit being a fucking asshole. The guy just went in front of you. Relax. And then the guy looks at me. He was like, oh, whatever, man. And he walked right out the door without buying what he was going to buy.
That's incredible. Dude, like, and that's the thing is I never want to say the wrong thing to the wrong person, but at the same time, you can't let people walk on you like that. You just can't, if you're unsafe, I'll say this, like, if you don't feel safe, if you're, you know, not sure about yourself physically, maybe don't do things like that. But at the same time, if you feel confident in sticking up for yourself or sticking up for somebody else, now is the time to do it more than ever. Right. You know, more than fucking ever. We're about to get fucked by our own government, like brutally. There's a reason I'm moving back to my hometown, and that's because I know hundreds of people there. Hundreds of people who I know will feed me, who I know I will feed should it come to that. I mean, we've seen rationing in this country before. We've had rationing here during World War II. We've had rationing in Great Britain during World War II and other Western countries. You know, and I'm not saying that the Trump administration is going to do that. I'm just saying they're going to let people fucking starve. They're not going to bother with rationing. You know, like
they don't care.
Exactly. But if they do anything like that, I want to make sure that we can actually take care of ourselves. You know, and so that's why we're doing that.
So that leads me into my last question for this episode. What is your opinion on today's current political climate?
Wow. No, so I think that I mean we are facing the worst demon of our lifetime. This is an era where I don't know what good can come of it other than the removal of some of the bad. And by that I mean shining a light on these fucking assholes. Making sure that everything that is happening in politics right now is reported on, because they are stopping reporters from entering the room. Making sure that
I heard about that.
Yeah, they banned the AP because they won't call it the Gulf of America. I'm like, oh my God, can you just not? The AP operates in multiple countries, and America is the only country that did it. But no, honestly, watching Trump and Vance just verbally beat up Zelensky. I mean, not beat up Zelensky. I mean, he held his own. You know, he's not a fucking. You know, he's not a pushover. Yeah, he was verbally berated and harassed by our fucking government on camera, mind you. You know, they set that up on purpose. And really, in the end, what it was Trump running his own little episode of The Apprentice. If you look at it, you know, he's sitting there in the chair, he's talking, and Mr. Zelensky, I mean, you could have done better with the marketing. And your product just, you didn't do the launch right, Mr. I'm sorry, Ukrainian aid is going to have to be cut. And so in all seriousness, though, it's funny, but at the same time, like, go fuck yourself. Right. You know, like, oh my God. And so I think that it's very important when it comes to political conversations, more so than ever, I mean, with you, I'll use names and talk about people, but if you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, don't say Trump, don't say Vance, don't say, for the love of God, don't mention Clinton, Biden, or Harris. Those three people are irrelevant. You know, if you think we need Clinton, Biden, or Harris to win in 2028, I want to smoke what you're smoking, because it must be pretty sedative. What we need right now is we need a working class hero. We need somebody to step forward and be like, no, Trump isn't going to fucking save you. We will save ourselves together. Here's how. And right. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't see very many people queued up to be that person.
There's not.
It's never a big pool to begin with, though. That's the thing. I feel actually Mathew, he's enlightened me on quite a few statistics. One of them being that 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people in the average organization. And so if you look at government, if 80% of the leadership is done by 20% of the people, you don't really have a small pool once you rule out the people who take corporate money. Right. I consider politicians who take big corporate money to be the same. There are people who are right, and then there are people who are further right. But if you're playing ball with what is essentially a non-territorial country, you know, if you'll take that example, take a big international company like I don't know, like Boeing or something, or fucking like, I don't know, Walmart, you know,
right?
They control assets in other countries that we don't control as as Americans. You know what I mean? And so they almost have their hands in more pies than ours, where like, oh, we're gonna lobby over here at this government to do cut the tax on this so we can export it to this for cheaper than this. And at some point they're going to make their own system, and they think they kind of already did. And we're realizing that very quickly now. Right. And so, like I said, just hold, as far as politics, don't get in any fights with loved ones right now. I don't think that's wise. I don't think that'll yield anything.
It's hard not to, though.
I think that what needs to happen is we need to be able to talk about ourselves. You'll hear conservatives talk about trans people all day long. I want to hear conservatives talk about themselves. Believe it or not. Those selfish people out there, I want to hear them talk about themselves. And so get them to talk about their own struggles, because there aren't many for the really wealthy ones. You know what I mean? Nope. And then for the ones who are working class, like the rest of us, get them to talk about what their struggles are, and then look for solutions together. Be like, oh, okay, cool. What's Doge doing to help with that? Oh, he's cutting money. Okay, so they're going to cut your taxes next. Okay, what taxes are they going to cut? Okay, let's go look at your paycheck. Okay, so which tax line is, so it's going to go from, and really walk them through it. I found, that's the thing, is it's not a big solution. It's a person by person solution, which isn't a solution, but it's how we can hold on to our own sanity and retain our connections these days. Like there was a guy that I used to work with, and he had on his coffee cup, he had a picture of Trump doing this, right? It's in remember the Obama Hope and Change, the blue and red print photos? Yeah, it was in that style. It said Trump 2024, I'm coming back, or something like that on his coffee mug. Dude tries to tell me, he tries to do that thing of like, oh yeah, I listen to both sides, blah, 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 blah. And then he tries telling me these Fox News talking points about how immigrants can go on to a website for, Department of Homeland Security and fill out a form, and then they can vote. And I was like, immigrants? Well, yeah. If you've got a naturalized citizen and all of that, eventually you can vote. You can't run for president.
No.
And he's like, well, no, they can hop over the border and fill out this form. And I was like, oh, okay. So where are they getting the form from? Oh, it's on a website. Okay. Well, where's the website? Well, I don't know. And then you see the wheels spin, the smoke starts to come out.
That's the Socratic method, my friend.
And then you say, okay, so you say that there's this website that a stupid, excuse my French, because obviously I'm going to be extremely hyperbolic, that a stupid illegal immigrant can go find and you can't? I'm sorry, what? And so I'm like, so dude, if you can't find this thing, I don't believe that it exists, because you haven't shown me that it exists. You've told me that it exists. You told me a lot of things. You haven't shown me anything. And so just like with your paycheck, because he's always notorious about checking his money, I'm like, just with your paycheck, I'm going to need to see the numbers first before I'm going to believe you, unfortunately. And he's like, well, they're not going to report on it anyway. And I was like, well, who's they? And then we went down the who's they road, which is always fun, because they never say the Jewish people, but they mean the Jewish people, but they don't really mean the Jewish people, but they do mean but not Israel, but it's this little dance they do.
I love that approach.
It's rather amusing to watch. I have to say, it's not, the result isn't amusing. The fact that, we have people's lives on the line here isn't amusing, but in the moment, to watch somebody spin their wheels to try to do the mental gymnastics, and from a sadist perspective, it is amusing. I hate to say it, but it is. But anyway, so we had an exhaustive conversation, and he never talked politics with me again after that, mind you, ever. we went through every single thing he could throw at me, and I was just like, okay, well, blah, 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 blah. And you're right, it is the Socratic method. I just keep forgetting to call it that.
It is. You nailed it, and that's a great approach, and that's something I need to do more of.
Yeah, I think it's important to ask questions. It's important to hear how people draw their conclusions, not just what their conclusions are. Because if you think 1 + 2 = 5, you can do multiplication all day long. You know what I mean? Until you hit something that's not multiplication, that's addition. And then if it's 1 + 2 and you write 5, you're wrong, even though you can do this other thing. And so finding out why you believe that, breaking down to the baseline, showing the addition versus multiplication, I guess, if you'll take the example, I think is important. And that's, that's a way that we can relate over politics too.
Mhm.
Talking about what's important to people. Most people want to feed their families,
Absolutely.
They say they want to ban trans people from sports. That's because they're told that they should ban trans people from sports because the trans people in sports are eating up all the money and that's why the food's expensive. And obviously none of that makes sense. None of that is true. But that's the lie that's been sold to them. And so you're never going to be able to look somebody in the eye and tell them that they're wrong or that they believe a lie. But you can lead them to that conclusion if you work very carefully, I guess I'll say.
Right.
And that's my views on politics these days.
That's a mix of the Socratic method and street epistemology.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
the Martin method. The Martin methodology. There it is.
I'm going to use that Martin methodology. All right, man. So it's been a pleasure. Do you got anything going on coming up on any other channels?
No, sadly not. I gotta say, I wanted to get back involved with the ACA and like helping out with crew and stuff, but life got too hectic. I reached out to them a while ago, and then I just, eventually I just couldn't do it. I never could commit to anything. So Helen is the only other show Helen's show, I should say, is the only other show that I've been on recently. I'd like to do more. I will probably be, I don't know, once we're up in New York, who knows? We're gonna have a 4 bedroom house to ourselves. So I just think about it.
Bedroom in New York,
upstate, like rural.
How much is that cost, man?
Rural ass bumfuck nowhere. We just happen to be 20 minutes from Ithaca.
Okay.
Yeah. No, like literally, as you turn onto Beckwith Lane, maybe I shouldn't give out the full address. Anyway, as you turn onto the street that leads to our street, you will smell manure from the farm from that street.
Okay.
Yeah, it is that rural. Now, has it appreciated? Yeah, all property is appreciated. But is it nice? No. The parents my house live in is nicer. That live in now is nicer than this one, and that one isn't worth that much more either. Because they're all in upstate New York. So yeah, we're 5.5 hours north of the city for reference.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So like, the Finger Lakes, they look like fingers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. The whole story is God did this,
yes.
to New York, graded some lines in there. Anyway, we're at the southernmost tip of the second largest and longest Finger Lake. It's the second largest by mass, or by volume rather. Seneca's the largest, but it's the longest because it's long and skinny. So, yeah.
All right. Well, Martin, thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Thanks for having the line. It was great catching up with you on camera. Thank you to all my patrons who have stood by me through my hiatus. I hope everyone has a good one, and we'll be back next Tuesday. Thanks again, Martin.
Bye.